I'm Duncan McLeod, and this is the TechCentral podcast brought to you today by DFA, or Dark Fibre Africa. And I'm joined today by a familiar face to the show, and that's, of course, Vino Govender, center in your picture. Vino is Head of Strategy, Mergers and Acquisitions at DFA. Now, Vino is joined on our call today by Portia Thokoane, who is DFA's Chief Human Capital Officer. Portia, welcome to you as well. Now, the reason I'm chatting to Portia and Vino today is that DFA was recently named Top Employer 2021 in South Africa. Vino, tell me a bit about this award and what it means for DFA.
Well, Duncan, if we look at it holistically, and Portia will go to it more in detail, it's an accomplishment for the organization. Duncan, you're aware that we a wholesale infrastructure player, fiber-centric on connectivity, and we believe that in moving forward and in the type of products and services that we take to market to support the entire digital ecosystem, we need to attract, retain, nurture, and grow talent, not just for DFA, but also to serve as an incubator to develop talent for the industry as well. The accomplishment of this accolade really puts us in that position, to attract, nurture, retain, and grow talent, not just within our organization, but like I mentioned, for the broader ecosystem per se.
So, Portia, let me bring you in here. There was quite a bit, I believe, that you guys had to go through before winning this award. There was a bit of a process involved. Talk me a bit about, take us through some of the background to winning this particular accolade.
Yes, Duncan, we're absolutely ecstatic to win the award, and even more so to know that within the space that we operate in, we are the only company in South Africa, actually in Africa, that has won the award. So we're absolutely proud and to be part of companies that are considered to be committed to excellence in HR strategies and practices. So we truly, as DFA, understand that the value that we bring or that we create in the market is value for people, and how we get that value is through people. So this certification is fantastic for our brand. But it's also fantastic to make sure that as a business, we remain committed to creating exceptional work conditions for our current employees and for the future talent. So to take you a little bit through the process, the participation requires signing up with the Top Employer Institute, which is a global institution. They conduct a deep analysis into our entire HR practice and environment. They look at conducting an audit. They come to our office. They go through all our documents, our processes. They look at a survey, a comprehensive survey, and that survey, it culminates to a process where they rate us through external auditors. And that rating is benchmarked against international standards and organizations. So we started this journey in 2019. We did not succeed in getting an award in 2019. We learned that there's some areas that we needed to improve on, particularly around our practices around EVP, around workforce planning. We went back, we took their feedback, went back to the table, looked at our strategy, and improved. So 2021, we find ourselves getting awarded. So we're absolutely proud.
You mentioned EVP. What is that? Employee Value Proposition, I'm guessing?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So we do a lot of good work, but we don't do a good job in marketing the value that we bring to current employees and to future employees.
Okay, now you had to identify, and I'm quoting here, factors critical to employee engagement and development. Maybe take us through in practice what that actually entails.
Yes. So holistically, the audit looked at the business strategy. It looked at how the HR strategy supports that business strategy. It looked at digital HR. It looked at our talent acquisition practices, employee well-being. It looked at our practice around inclusion. It is a wide battery of categories that they looked at, and most importantly, around employee development or skills development, because we're not looking only at our internal employees. We found ourselves to be, and this has been going on for a couple of years, be truly committed to invest resources and effort in improving the skills, reskilling our current employees, and upskilling them, because we recognize that not only for DFA, but in South Africa, about 30% of jobs are going to be automated. So we need to prepare for that transition. We've also been highly focused on youth development. We understand the plight of South Africa has been coming for many years, where we're talking about either lack of skills, or we're talking about the quality of skill not really being relevant for our sector. So we have been investing a lot on various youth development programs, right from foundational level, at schools, going into schools, and also programs that we are bringing unemployed learners in-house. Last year alone, for an example, Duncan, despite the COVID challenges, we had about 125 young people that were in our company that went through really intensive learning programs. So those young people, we're not able to absorb all of them, but we have given them the skills that any organization within the industry can use them.
Vino, winning an award like this is obviously a major accolade for DFA, but maybe unpack in a little bit of detail how it helps you as an organization. I presume being able to have this accolade alongside your name helps you attract skills. But in what sort of ways does this benefit DFA?
So, Duncan, the key benefit, there's many spin-offs, right? But in qualifying to be awarded this accolade, it means that we also focus very strongly on our level of employee engagement. What we found, Duncan, is that there's a strong correlation between employee engagement and customer experience. Now, we've chatted on the show, I think, previously on the digitalization of DFA and where we're going. It's all based on improving our level of customer experience, and we've seen gains in that over the years. And it's because it's not just about the products and technologies that we take to the market from an open access perspective, but how do we do it? It's the service level that it gets delivered to the customer with. And one of the key metrics and drivers of our business is customer experience. We want to improve the customer experience that we deliver upon, and the awarding of this accolade just also accentuates the fact that it drives a better employee, like you mentioned, employee engagement, employee experience. Portia can chat around how we've used very specific platforms, Beacon, in terms of measuring key attributes that drive employee engagement, and we've taken measures from top down in the organization, focusing very specifically on the attributes that drive employee engagement and employee experience within the employee base. And that's one of the key benefits is improving the experience that we deliver to our customers.
Well, Portia, do you want to jump in there and talk a little bit about those platforms which Vino just spoke about?
Yes, I do want to add on that. The really key of us creating a fantastic environment to work in, like I said, it's people who are serving the people that really pay us at the end of the day. be it a business or be it the end user that ultimately interfaces with our products. So if we don't start here, with the front line, which is the people that do the actual work, it is going to impact our scorecard and the bottom line at the end of the day. So we looked at holistically. We cannot speak about customer experience without speaking about the experience of the employees that really serve those customers. So besides tracking or measuring through a platform like a Beacon platform, we've looked at what are the key levers that we need to drive, to ensure that employees are enabled, they're engaged, and they're empowered to work for DFA. So we looked at the quality of leadership. That is the first one. Simply because any impact or any change, it starts at the top. So if you have the leaders that are bringing not only the minds but their hearts to the business, and they are engaged and focused on investing in meaningful work that is going to be legacy creating for the business, for the company, and the individuals that work for it. It's really, the first and the main focus that we looked at. After looking at the quality of leadership, we looked at even selling things like your employee benefits. Are we offering benefits that are relevant for the market that we operate in? There's no point in having employees that they're doing the work. You are investing a lot in skilling them, but however, they are not compensated competitively. So you end up losing those employees, right? So one of the key retention tool for us, is to make sure that we are rewarding, our employees. When they perform, we reward them accordingly, and that they've got benefits that are relevant. We looked a lot we did a lot of work around the culture of the organization. Topics of inclusion, they are in our country very sensitive topics, and most companies have an academic approach to such topics. So we've shifted the needle to a great extent where we have transparent and open conversations around inclusion. So how is the environment for our millennials? We have 52% of our employees being millennials. So how do we ensure that the millennials feel included in the organization? So we've got a millennial council, who are part of the strategic decisions of the business. We've got an employee, a female employee forum, who also come and look at the matter of gender inclusion. So we have a lot of investments around, how do we take away time that employees spend on administrative activities, for them to focus on impactful, strategy impacting activities. So how do we digitalize, the HR support? How do we digitalize, other manual processes within the organization? So really, we saw a lot of benefit from improving our internal efficiencies that helped free our employees to really do work that they're passionate about. And then that also translated to the ease of doing business with us that our customers were experiencing, and more value for our customers.
I want to come back to one thing you mentioned in your answer there, which I'd actually be really keen to get some insight into. I think you called it the Millennial Council that you've created. How, Portia, how different rather are the expectations of millennials coming to the workforce today compared to, say, Gen X or any other generation? Do they have a very different, and it's often said that millennials grew up digitally native, they are very happy and comfortable using technology. Does that change the way that an organization like DFA has to reward them, to retain them?
Absolutely, Duncan. I don't know if I should say fortunate. I'm also part of Generation X, so I do struggle a little bit with technology. But we're learning. We realized that really the people that needed to do a lot of unlearning was us. We had a traditionalist view to how to conduct business, and to our perception of what the future looks like. And then we had young people who had a different approach to something as simple as coming to work. Back in the day, we cared more about what time you're arriving in the office, what time you're leaving. You must sit in your little cubicle or in your little office space. And we have young people saying, please, just make clear what your expectations are. What value do you want me to deliver for you? How and when I do it, shouldn't really matter. I could be sitting in a restaurant and having a meeting, why should I be, wearing a tie and sitting in an office and with you seeing me for you to be comfortable that I'm doing the work? So we found a couple of years back that there was a bit of discord between, us, the older generation, and the young generation. When they came up with ideas, they were too wild for us to understand. And we were a bit resistant. And the more that we didn't entertain their ideas, the more they either withdrew and didn't participate, or they left the organization. So we've put them on the forefront. They have a purpose, because young people want to lead by purpose. They want to know exactly what value are they driving. So they're coming up with programs and projects that are helping us to really rethink and relook at the way that we're doing business, which is very difficult for us to conceptualize because the future is very uncertain.
Yes.
So they have a better idea of what the future looks like than us.
It must make older, if I can call them that, leaders quite uncomfortable. So some of these different approaches. And Vino, there was a big debate I think just a few weeks ago where we saw the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings. I think is he still the CEO? I'm not sure. Maybe co-CEO of Netflix now. But he made some remarks. He said, "I want my people back in the office. This remote working thing was an emergency situation under COVID, but we are most productive. We interface with each other much better. We do our best work when everyone is in the office." But other companies like Twitter, Jack Dorsey said exactly the opposite. He said, if our employees want to work from home for the rest of their lives, they are most welcome to do so. So it's an interesting debate. Vino, what are your views on it?
I think it's a mindset thing. I mean, to add to what Portia was saying, I mean, a network operation center, let's bring it back to DFA, right? A network operation center is the heart of the business, right? Your uptime, your SLA uptime on the network, really defines you. It defines the value that you're adding to your customer. It's pointless having thousands of links out there, and your availability of the network is substandard. We've maintained 99.95 not uptime on the network. Having said that, our NOC has been virtualized, meaning our NOC engineers, rather than sitting in a facility, which we had, our NOC facility, are working from home now. And the network hasn't been compromised. So it's a mindset thing, right? And so for me, when I look at it from where we are, to Portia's point, you need to give people the environment, create a conducive environment with the governance and in a balance between governance and bureaucracy, but give them the clear type of deliverable expectations that you want from them. Support them with what they need to deliver that. Guidance, technology, platform, systems, KPIs, and give them the ability, so that enables you to manage the expectations and you're supporting the delivery of that. And the most important thing, and I don't want to sound cliche here, but allow them the space and the freedom to innovate as well, because that's important from the business. What I'm finding and what we see in the business now is, when we started, people started prior to COVID, by the way, trying to get people onto Teams wasn't moving. But now that we're on Teams, everybody's on, right?
Yes.
As an example. And an unintended consequence of that, which is an upside for us, is that we're finding that there are groups being set up on Teams, collaboration groups between the planning department and the sales department, the group that exists between planning, marketing, and product and sales. So these groups are all these types of, I would call them, and for me, people may see them as just groups, but for me, sitting where I do in the organization, I see them as these little hubs of innovation, where conversations are had, where collaboration takes place, where ideas are born, and then, vetted and then move through that pipeline within the business. So, my view is, it doesn't matter where people sit nowadays. They just need to have the conducive environment and support to be able to deliver what they need to deliver.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Portia, I obviously winning this accolade is testimony to the fact that you are doing something right. But I imagine that you've got a number of what's the word? Not targets, but a number of criteria that you measure to determine the success of the work that you're doing in the organization from an HR perspective. I imagine that employee retention is one of those things, but what are some of the other factors that you consider?
Yeah. So one of the first successes, I would say, for a business like ours is first, HR has to be seen and has to be experienced as core to the delivery of the strategy. We have a challenge in this sector that you find some businesses still treating or taking HR as an administrative, back office, function. And for those businesses, I would really say you actually don't need HR personnel, because these days there is really solutions to automate a lot of the, HR operational functions. So the first thing for us as DFA, we had to bring in key HR metrics into the business scorecard. So without meeting those metrics, it means that we have not achieved as a business. And if we don't achieve, our targets as a business, it actually hits everybody's pockets. And when metrics hit pockets, they really get to matter to everybody in the organization. So the key metric that we put on the scorecard, which is supported by a strategy and frameworks, is the employee experience. The employee experience is also supporting the ENPS score, which is the Net Promoter Score, which is customer experience score. Those are metrics that were not there in the past. We also look at the work that we do around driving transformation. So transformation around our hiring activities, around our skills development investments, around what we do for small enterprises and for our suppliers. So those metrics are equally important to us meeting our financial targets on our scorecard.
Interesting. Metrics, that's the word I was struggling to come up with. Yeah, thank you. Now, Vino, we know there are skill shortages in the ICT sector, and I guess it's really is an industry-wide challenge. It's felt just as keenly by DFA and everyone else in the sector. But maybe take us through how your view on how focusing on these issues that we're talking about today could help perhaps encourage more people to join the ICT industry. Will it do that? Your thoughts on how it might help with the skills challenge?
So Duncan, we often say and we acknowledge that there's a skill shortage. And what do we do about it? Do we expect government to solve it? Do we expect universities to solve it? We talk about it, but what do we do about it? And I believe that we as industry participants must take the responsibility and accountability for taking our part in addressing the skill shortages. we have the ability to bring in people who have an aspiration, provide them with, whether it's from on-the-job learning from a learnership perspective, whether we've got a number of graduates out there in South Africa, by the way, that are unemployed, bring them in and bring the graduates and give them the ability to have an experience of a move from theoretical to practical work experience, theoretical knowledge to practical experience. And thirdly is look at how we create the capacity to absorb these individuals across our industry and across verticals as well. When we look at the skills, when I'm talking about digital, specifically in broad caption, digital type of skills, they're not specific to the ICT industry. They are required in every vertical, from banking to logistics, to FMCG, to retail, to mining. So, I believe that as business, private sector as well, we, like I say, we have the responsibility and should take the accountability for solving or being part of the solution in terms of skills shortage development and the development and impartation of digital skills.
Portia, in your view, how should other companies be approaching this? I mean, is it always the same basic recipe that you apply in this space, or is it unique to every company?
So, Duncan, there's never a one size fits all in the human capital space, and especially the times that we're in. What used to work in the past has become obsolete. So companies have to rethink HR for themselves. So they are basic pillars in terms of HR best practice. Work around performance management. How are we extracting value out of the resources that we have? Work around the culture of the organization. Each company must have a conversation to determine what is the best culture to fit or to enable our strategy. The culture that works for DFA may not work for another company strategy. So, and without companies clearly articulating the culture that would best enable their strategy, you find that they miss the capability to deliver on the strategy. So there's a whole lot of elements, around the strategy, around shaping the organization, around attracting talent, developing talent, engaging talent, and you look at a framework that will work for them. I wanted to add that for DFA, I think we are celebrating and we're excited about the achievement because it was not an overnight journey. It's a journey that started 3 years ago. A lot of work, a lot of research, coming back to the environment to find out from our shareholders exactly what do they expect, what kind of organization do they want to see positioned in the markets that we operate in. And looking at what's the best strategies that will support the needs of the board, and our shareholders. So this required buy-in, support, and direction from the top, and also a lot of engagement with Xcode to say how do we bring this to life into our daily practice as an organization. So we've had a lot of work and a lot of projects that came out of the new HR strategy that we introduced 2 years ago. So for companies, I would say it requires effort. It requires investment in money because some of those programs, if you want a tool to measure a metric, you may need to spend money on it, to get a scientific methodology, to use in measuring that metric. You may need to look at, if you're looking at reskilling your workforce, you may need to pay somebody, to come in and chart a direction for you on how to reskill your workforce and in what skills, like an exercise that we're busy with at DFA is a business enterprise architecture project, which requires a lot of resources. Looking at robotic process automation. How do we automate a lot of the manual administrative processes that we do, so that we can focus our efforts more on saving our customers. So it's a process of completely overhauling and relooking at the organization. It's not just HR and HR activities of hiring, firing, paying. It's really looking at the complete structure of the organization.
I think that flows quite nicely into the last question I wanted to ask you. And Portia, we don't often talk HR on this platform, so it's a nice opportunity to be able to delve into some subject matter we don't normally focus on. But what are the big trends in the HR space at the moment? What are the trends for 2021, and what are we going to see over the next few years?
Yeah, I'm going to challenge you, Duncan, to really start taking HR, because it's really, I think COVID has really shown us that we need to blend people with technology. Technology does not exist on its own, it is exists because of people, either the creators, or the users of the technology. So as I said before, I'm going to repeat, we're serving people, and it's people who are serving people within organizations. So I'm going to encourage you to really bring this topic to the forefront. So looking at the trends, I think companies have learned by now that the traditional approach of hiring, which can be completely automated now, paying salaries, which can be automated or outsourced, and firing, which can also be outsourced. Companies have learned that that's not really where the value of HR comes from. So it's really critical for companies who want to remain relevant going into the future to look at these trends. I'm not going to say they're emerging trends because they've been there, but looking at the COVID-19 pandemic, looking at some of the recent events like your Black Lives Matter events, they've really brought to the fore the agency around certain HR topics, right? So I would really say, the trends for 2021 and beyond, and certainly it's things that DFA is focused on. The top trend for us is transparency, leadership transparency, and driving an inclusive environment. I would give you a very simple example of where leadership transparency has really served us as an organization. When the pandemic started, everybody was scared. Everybody was panicked. We were on a crisis mode. And that's for every organization. So we had to step up as leaders. Before we used to we only choose a little bit of information that we share on a need-to-know basis with employees. So we had to be completely open, completely transparent, and get closer to the employees. So we initiated weekly town halls which were led by our CEO, and he had completely open conversations to say, yes, we are all scared. The future is uncertain. We don't know, but here is what we are proposing, to do to mitigate risks that are in front of us, and also bring conversation. It's conversation with employees. What do you recommend? That really brought us to get closer to our employees, and to also understand that we're not dealing with a number. We're not dealing with an employee. We're dealing with a whole human being. because now they come to and share, the challenges that they're experiencing in their home environments. We talk about you need to isolate. Some people don't even have rooms to isolate in. So we're finding that transparency is absolutely critical. Inclusion has always been a buzzword, particularly in South Africa, and really the days are really gone where we need to pay lip service to this term inclusion. We need to articulate and conceptualize what it means for us as an organization, and also as a country. We need to conceptualize it, and we need to really work on driving inclusive environments. We cannot have leaders who are silent on the matters of inclusion. Leaders are part of the macrocosm of society. So they cannot be quiet on matters that are really at the heart of society. So the next trend, which is absolutely key, and we see it really being accelerated by COVID as well, is the focus on digitalization. We really have got no option, as corporate South Africa, to look at where can we automate our processes, where can we take out unnecessary effort, waste, errors, in the system, increase speed, increase efficiencies. So in every area of the business, digitalization is absolutely critical. Previously, we were still trying to figure out what is digital transformation going to look like. But COVID-19 has really not given us any chance to waste with a lot of PowerPoints. We just had to deep dive, look for opportunities for digitalization, and run with them. The third trend is well-being of employees, and well-being which goes beyond physical well-being, but mental well-being has become absolutely critical.
Especially during the COVID times and lockdown, I imagine. I mean, I think a lot of people are under immense stress at the moment. Even those who have retained their jobs are, I think, are finding it difficult. Particularly, I think, Portia, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I imagine that more extroverted individuals might have taken this last year quite with some difficulty. I think introverted people, and I'm one of them, quite enjoy being away from other people and working on my own. It's when I'm most productive. But I imagine certain personality types have found it pretty difficult going, not being able to have face-to-face meetings and interactions.
It absolutely has been a challenge. Just the constant fear. So Deloitte published a report in December on mental wellness, and we find that stress, anxiety, depression, particularly amongst young people, are extremely high, and that's really a cost, for businesses. So I usually say this to my exco that the schooling system taught us how to take care of physical wellness. I remember in grade 1, they taught me how to brush my teeth, how to bathe, how to take care of my body, but never how to take care of the mind. So it is absolutely imperative and it's our responsibility as businesses, because we expecting to have a whole human being present in the work environment. So they cannot be present if they don't have the tools to understand how to be healthy mentally. So in mental wellness, mental well-being, absolutely top priority to understand what does it mean, have clear programs to drive awareness in businesses, to drive out stigma in businesses, and to give practical tools that people can use to maintain their mental wellness. So we've got programs that we're running at DFA in that regard. But this is a trend that is going to stay with us for a long time to come, and it's really been also elevated by these peculiar times that we're operating in. So another trend, the fourth trend. So there's 5 trends.
Okay.
So the fourth trend that is absolutely critical, and I've mentioned this before. Businesses need to move away from basic HR partnering. Remember back in the day, we had HR personnel who were very, very administrative, and then we moved to HR partnering. We transitioned, and we're seeing that the world is now evolving to have a need for HR strategists, HR architects, and advisors. 90% of what an HR business practitioner does in companies is very operational. And what companies need is strong HR operations center, which can be automated as much as you can, and then you spend the value of your investment on strategists that will help make your business, that will bring solutions to your business. The last trend that we've also spoken about, which is going to stay with us probably forever, is the hybrid office.
Oh, yes.
So those traditional leaders who still are passionately holding on to the office keys, they need to rethink that approach. So we have to look at a mixture of solutions, looking at the type of work that employees do, looking at the personality of the employee, looking at the home situation of the employee. We cannot say it's none of our business what the home situation is, right? So for an example, if somebody has got kids to take to school, it has to matter to us. How do we make sure that you fulfill your family obligations and still work? So companies have to come with a mixture of solutions to ensure that, yes, you've got a little bit of connection. You've got connection, you've got going to the office, and then you've got flexibility that comes with working from home. It is not going to go away now, that need. And frankly, we've had the rest of the world advance in that space for many years now. I think South Africa is one of the countries which had taken its time. So one size fits all solutions do not work, where we just blindly demand for people to come to the office. We have to follow the approach that we follow with customers and look at personalization of our employees. What tactic, what strategy will work to extract the best value out of this employee? And one of the tools that we also touched on is companies need to clearly understand and articulate what do they need from this resource that they are investing in. We cannot hire a resource and not know how to articulate exactly what we want them to do. What is in those KPIs? Most companies don't do that. That is why they will end up focusing their attention on non-value adding, activities. So companies need to be crystal clear of this is the value that employees need to bring to the table, and have a conversation of how do we best extract that value out of you. Thank you.
Portia, plenty of food for thought there, and I think lots to consider. So thanks so much for sharing your insights, and Vino as well. Always great to have you on the podcast and to learn more about what's happening at DFA. Now, Vino Govender is, of course, DFA's Head of Strategy, Mergers and Acquisitions, and Portia Thokoane is the company's Chief Human Capital Officer. Thanks so much for talking to TechCentral today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Duncan. Pleasure being on the show again.